Following on from this is the full recording of that interview that we had a snapshot of from Ryan on Sunday morning. Ryan is the pastor over at Community Church Warndon, CCW. It's a church that Manor Park planted 8 years ago, and it was great to catch up with Ryan to hear how things are going for them in lockdown life and what they've been up to. It's great to hear that news, but it'll also be good for us to be able to pray for them, and it gives us some specifics to pray for. So I hope you enjoy watching it and find it beneficial as you hear what CCW are up to, and it can fuel your prayer for them as a church. Enjoy watching. Well, hi, Ryan. Thanks for giving up some time to share with us this evening. It'll be great to hear how things are going at CCW. Why don't we start there? Why don't you fill us in on what's been going on, what you guys have been up to?
How things are, yeah, I'll fill you in. Good to see you, by the way. Nice to share this virtual moment with you and anyone else watching a bit later on. So, yeah, this is great. How are things at CCW? I'll answer that question first. I guess the week after Boris announced the lockdown, when was that, 8 weeks ago? I remember the next day I called a friend of mine who's an old pastor. He's in his 80s, he's retired. And I often call him from time to time for advice and stuff. And I said, look, what do we do? How did you, you've seen some stuff. What did you do? And he goes, no, I've never, this is unprecedented. That was before the word unprecedented was getting bandied around. He goes, no, this is unprecedented. He goes, I've never experienced anything like this in my ministry life. And I thought, I could at least make something up. I mean, I'm on my own, but I suppose that just made me realize that everyone was in brand new territory. Everyone was trying to work stuff out. So, you know how it is. You don't get any training for this at Bible college. We had a week to figure some stuff out, like how do you do church? What do you need to do first? And so I suppose what we've been doing right at the beginning was just trying to get our plans in place, really, and figure out how we're going to keep everybody connected and cared for and in communication. And I suppose the fact that nobody's disappeared, nobody's died, nobody's been hospitalized. We've had a worship service every week in the way that works for us. So in that sense, things have been going pretty good, I think. So we're pleased with that. What have we been up to? Well, lots of things, really. Randy and Amy, I think you're going to have an interview with them at some point, and they're going to tell you about some exciting stuff that they've been doing in the community with some like food distributions and some little outreach ministries that they've been working on, which has been great. I'll let them tell you more about that. As I said, the first couple of weeks really have been just sort of setting up how we're going to do church, ironing out the creases, working out all the technology. We do a weekly email bulletin now. We use something called MailChimp, and that's our sort of that's our outpost every week. It's got the service on there, prayer needs on there, any articles or information or updates is all on there. So I think we've just started to find our stride there. People are using that, appreciating that. Another thing I've started to do is, I don't know if you know, John Wesley, when he used to go out and visit his parishioners, he'd go out on horseback, all these churches everywhere. So my version of that is I get on my bike, seeing as I'm a key worker, and I take the girls with me in the little wagon on the back, and we just go and visit people in the neighborhood from the church, and have a social distance chat and pray, 5 meters, 5 meter rule. But just starting to do that. And it's for a lot of our folks who live alone, it's really good for them to just see a face, even mine. So we've been up to that. Maybe other things will come up in this conversation, but yeah.
I'm sure the girls are enjoying that as well.
Yeah, they love it.
In the wagon.
Yeah, they love it. Libby, we've been trying to help Libby understand what's going on, but she just thinks of it as everyone's poorly, and when everyone's not poorly again, we can do things the normal way. So yeah, they've really they have really enjoyed that. So,
So people are engaging well with online services, and home groups still going, and
Yeah, the small groups, we meet, our small groups meet every 3 months and then they have a month off. April actually happened to be the month off. But what we found with a number of our small groups is people were still, once they got Zoom installed and they figured out how to use it, people were still just meeting for socials, and just even if it was for a shorter time, because none of us but Larry have got the paid version, so we're all like 40 minutes, 45 minutes, and then it cuts off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I've really just, you may ask me this in a little bit, so I'll not say, but yeah, carry on.
I was going to put the pressure on me now to make sure I ask you the right question in a minute.
I'll pick it up.
Good stuff. So I guess you've probably already explained some of the changes in that sense. Pastoral visiting, I guess you never would have done on your bike with kids in tow before. And services are online. But any other changes as a result of lockdown to church life, or for?
Yeah, I suppose for me personally, you and I were just having a chat before this, and Sarah and I have not got much to grumble about in the way that it affects us, because we haven't got children at school. Libby doesn't start until September, and we've just come on the right side of this pandemic, so we're not having to suddenly teach the children and be class teachers and deliver that kind of material. But it does bring the challenge of, I work from home. We're not in a huge house. Every cubic inch is being used in our house. It's either a cupboard or a place where stuff is, or a place where kids are. And where I would normally go out to the library and work when I'm doing studying and preparing, you're cooped up in a room upstairs.
Yeah.
And you know how it is. It can be difficult to work from home every day when you've got 2 children and they don't really quite understand what's going on, or why they can't come up and see you. And so that's been a change, just getting used to a new rhythm and trying to make it work, and realizing that you can't do as much in a sense as you could do before the pandemic. There is just some stuff where you have to roll up your sleeves and be dad and get on with helping out there, so that you can go back a bit later on and be a pastor. So that's been a change. Seeing people a lot more without necessarily going to see them because of something that's cropped up, or something they want to see you about. So and on the phone more to people. That's been a change. I think the other change has been, and it's an encouragement too, just to see the rest of the church mucking in. Everyone's like, I was reading just earlier in Acts 10, I think it is, where the church was persecuted. It says the apostles stayed in Jerusalem and everyone else was pushed out. And it says, as they were pushed out, these like new converts, these, they're not the experts, so to speak. They go out doing the work, they go out preaching and telling people the gospel. And it's just been good to see people caring for one another, picking up the phone, calling one another. I just hear of all these things that are happening that I'm not part of. Yeah. And you just think, that's great. Yeah.
That's great, isn't it?
That's been a good
church community.
Yeah, that's been a really good change. And I suppose another change is it's made me more aware of how difficult life is, even before this pandemic, for people who live alone. Varying degrees of mental health difficulties, that are only exacerbated when they're in a forced lockdown. Just made me more sensitive towards those people, and more. I've got them on my radar a lot more. Yeah.
So maybe then, as we come towards the end, what's maybe been the greatest encouragement or benefit that you've seen of lockdown life within CCW?
Greatest benefit within CCW? Well, like I said earlier, I think seeing everybody playing their part, caring for one another, seeing that thirst for fellowship. When something you take for granted is taken away from you, you crave it more. And so it's just been lovely to see people craving that fellowship. I suppose one of the challenges that we need prayer for is Not everybody has a computer. Not everybody has enough data on their phone to do a Zoom meeting. Not everyone has access to Wi-Fi. They would normally go to the library. So as the weeks roll, we've got to think about that. So that's a bit of a challenge. But generally for me, and I think this trickles down through me and to the church, one of the great, what was it you asked me, encouragements? One of the great encouragements for me is I like the way that it is causing us to be more content. Jerry Bridges wrote this book ages ago called Respectable Sins, and it was about all these sins that as Christians we kind of we just do, and we promote, and we take them lightly. And I think for me, in my experience, two of those is busyness. You know, we kind of like celebrate it sometimes in Christian circles. Oh, I'm so busy means I'm so fruitful. It doesn't. It just means you're really, really busy. And the other is greed. You know, how easy it is just to take for granted, oh, I don't want coffee at home. I want to go here for a coffee. I don't want the food we got in the fridge. I want to go and get something from some other place. And when that's all taken away from you, I don't know, God really just makes me appreciate the need to be content and to slow down and to rest, because that actually is one of the 10 commandments, to rest. So I have found that really encouraging, and I find myself wanting to pass that on to other people in the church, you know, take these beautiful commands of Jesus to rest and to be content and obey them, because they're really, really good, and he loves you. That's why he commanded them. So yeah. And I think the other thing is just focusing more on prayer. You know, you can't physically, I had a pastoral situation the other day. I couldn't be there to do anything about it. And that just makes you get on your knees, you know, just pray and say, Lord, I wish we could do something. We can't, but you can. And so we just depend on him a lot more. That's got to be a good thing, right?
Yeah. Well, prayer is always a good thing.
Yeah.
So you've shared a challenge, I guess, with not everybody having a device or internet. Any other challenges that we can be praying for you guys for? Or any prayer requests that we can be praying for you as we pray for you a little bit later?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. One challenge is there's still a lot of post-independence admin that has to be done and is being done. And it's no easier when you can't, you know, when you're in lockdown conditions. So just prayer that we would be able to carry on with that the best way we can, and hopefully just get it behind us, because it does take a lot of time. Larry's doing great work with a lot of that as well. Okay. I think some of the challenges are just, you know, for me, when you pastor a small church, the challenge of feeling, so that's Libby's clock tweeting. The challenge to not compare yourself with other churches. You look at their online services and you think, oh man, look at what they're delivering. Look at the content, look at the stuff they've got. And we just don't have the capacity and the resources and the skills to be able to do all of that. And it's a challenge to just be able to say, look, here's my 5 loaves and 2 fish. That's all I've got. And I'm going to put it in Jesus' hands, and I'm going to trust that he multiplies it. But there is a part of us in our sinful nature that feels like, you know, I wish we could be doing more. Or the fears that people, you know, you might lose people, which is an irrational fear. People are more close together during this time.
Yeah.
And I think when I'm recording, I don't know about your experiences, but when you're recording sermons and the technology fails and you have to do it again, and then something goes wrong, you have to do it again. I found that in the first few weeks really exhausting, and it plays into a part of me which needs to just actually settle with less than perfect and just say, do you know what? It's hard preaching in front of a camera. It's hard when nobody's there. Yeah. And it's just a challenge that I find I need prayer for.
You don't get second takes on a Sunday morning when you're live, do you? So
that's what Sarah tells me. Sarah said, just imagine the congregation are in front of you was like, yeah, but they're not. And that's the thing. That's the thing. So, lots of peculiar challenges, but lots of more reasons to rejoice and thank God for whatever his purposes are in this. We know they're good. And I think we'll come out of this in God's time different for the better.
Yeah. God's still working, isn't he? He's at work and using this for his purposes, so we can trust that that'll be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Well, it's been great to hear that update and catch that news, and we'll pray for you shortly, and we'll continue to keep doing so.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everyone at Manor Park family.